Hello, race fans. We have to talk about this year's Chili Bowl Nationals. This had to have been one of the most historic Chili Bowl Nationals of all time, if not the most historic. This was unbelievable racing, one of the most outstanding races of the year, one of the most prestigious races of the year, and I'm always love watching the Chili Bowl this time of year for some of the greatest storylines and greatest drives, putting drivers' names on maps and creating local legends and heroes inside that Tulsa Expo Center. This year was absolutely thrilling. We had fantastic racing on all prelim nights, which we'll break down here in this video, as well as legendary and record-breaking soup runs on Chili Bowl Driller Day Saturday. I believe the best way to describe how amazing the racing was in this year's 40th annual Chili Bowl Nationals is to go day by day through all prelim nights and describe all the storylines leading into Driller Day Saturday. Going into the Monday night preliminaries, out of the KKM stable included heavy hitters Cannon McIntosh and Tanner Carrick, former Mr. Monday Nights, as well as Shane Golobic, a formidable contender on previous Monday nights, as well as Briggs Danner, after a heartbreaking preliminary in A main battling for the lead with Shane Golobic in 2025, and defending preliminary night winner Kyle Larson, the headliner of this great racing night on Monday. Also, a storyline that we will get into even deeper into this video, and one of the best storylines coming out of the Chili Bowl was Mac Leopard. Let's talk about Monday's high point man and your pole sitter for the Monday night A main feature being Can't Drive Cannon McIntosh, as that name has fit him extremely well. Goes from a 6-1 in his heat race number 3 on Monday night. Then follows it up with a 6-2 in qualifier action just behind Kyle Larson, who hit a little bit of Larson luck after a spin out and losing 0 positions in his heat race effort. In Heat Race 8, our Chili Bowl feel-good story of the weekend is Mac Leopard, who was struggling in his heat race and having mechanical issues that left more to be desired, following it up with a DNF in the C main feature on Monday's prelim, relegating him to an N main start on Driller Day Saturday. Monday prelim A feature starts with your high point man Cannon McIntosh and Briggs Danner making up the front row, with Kyle Larson starting on the outside of row number 2. Cannon McIntosh would jump out to a huge lead early in this race, setting a dominant pace. But with 20 laps to go, Kyle Larson made the outside line work. The first man to truly get that outside line rolling would take the lead and hold on for the prelim A feature victory, holding off a hard-charging Briggs Danner, who took lessons from last year's heartbreaking defeat when he pulled the slider on Shane Golobic, throwing his Chili Bowl Nationals down the drain. Let's move into Tuesday's preliminary night, as this has become a night to show the underdogs and rising superstars trying to make a name for themselves in the Chili Bowl Nationals. Names such as Landon Brooks and Brennan Crouch, who were lock-ins in last year's Chili Bowl Nationals, as well as Ryan Timms driving for KKM, and Hank Davis, a former Chili Bowl A main starter. Heat race number 2 would include Darren Nida, who at the time we would not realize would become a Chili Bowl history-making driver, as he would have an awful flip, setting back his entire Chili Bowl Nationals and putting the preconceived destiny into the air for Driller Day Saturday. Chili Bowl legends JJ Yaley, Mr. Original Alphabet Soup, and Zach Daum driving in the Bondio car would have exceptional heat race and qualifying events and put themselves on the front row for Tuesday's A main feature. The A main feature would start with Zach Daum holding a steady lead, making that inside line work and making that Bondio car look like an absolute rocket ship for the first 10 laps. And with 20 laps to go, much like Monday night, Hank Davis would make that outside line work and jump to a lead. The story of the race was further back. Starting in 8th position on the outside of the 4th row was Blake Hahn, who had a decent qualifier night. It wasn't until later in the race when he got that outside line working, and they built an absolute rocket ship, one that Kim Jong-un would be jealous of. He wraps the outside line and blows the doors off of Hank Davis and sets sail to his first preliminary night victory of his Chili Bowl career. making for a true upset win and maybe even a dark horse favorite going into Chili Bowl's Saturday night main event. Battling further back was 14-year-old phenom Jeb Barnes in the Swindell Speed Lab machine, making moves and dicing through the field, making for one hell of a storyline moving into Driller Day Saturday, as he would finish third and lock himself into a B main starting spot come Driller Day. Wednesday night, probably the most entertaining prelim night of the week on paper, including heavy favorites such as Corey Day, Dason Pursley, and Emerson Axum, and many other great names as well, including Slammin' Sammy Swindell, the record holder for the most Chili Bowl victories. Your high point man on Wednesday, and rolling off from the pole position in the A feature would be KTJ Kevin Thomas Jr., who in heat race number 5 went on an 8-2 run, and then follows it up with a 6-1 run in his qualifier, putting himself in prime position to capture that golden driller. Not such fortune would find Slammin' Sammy Swindell, who rolled off in 8th position in heat number 4, and would tag the outside wall going for a violent flip, putting his Chili Bowl efforts in absolute peril. He would later roll off in a P main on Driller Day Saturday. Chili Bowl Wednesday A main feature would start with Kevin Thomas Jr. jumping to an early lead as he was being challenged by Dason Pursley. And then ripping the topside, Colby Copeland would assume the lead with 28 laps to go. Once Copeland had taken the lead, the battle for P2 raged on between Pursley and KTJ. They both made a mistake and left the bottom open to an ascending Emerson Axum, who rolled by on the inside, taking that P2. Coming for 12 laps to go, Colby Copeland would hop the cushion and leave the window open for Emerson Axum to slide through, who would take the lead and hold on for the remainder of the race and take the prelim victory over a hard-charging Dason Pursley, who struggled in the early portions of the night, setting Emerson Axum up for a fantastic Driller Day Saturday. Thursday's Chili Bowl preliminary event was C-Bell Night in the Bowl, as well as Tanner Thorson, both former Chili Bowl champions, with hard chargers pursuing to take the night away, such as Carter Sarf with the Chase Briscoe Racing Team, and Ryan Bernal with the Matt Wood Racing Team, who has yet to lock in a driver into Chili Bowl Saturday A main, as well as Kyle Cummins with the Swindell Speed Labs Racing Machine, and CJ Leary racing for Alex Bowman, looking to lock in a second AB Racing Machine into Chili Bowl A main Saturday. Christopher Bell would catch the Chili Bowl misfortune of drawing a high pill and a front row starting spot in his heat race, which he would go on to win, as well as win in his qualifier, but not scoring enough points to put himself on the front row, rather putting him on row number 4 starting P8 in the A main. The high point man on Thursday would be CJ Leary with an incredible 9-3 run in heat race number 3, following it up with a fantastic 6-2 run behind Christopher Bell in his qualifier, setting him up for the pole position in Thursday's A feature. Thursday's preliminary A feature would start with CJ Leary getting off to a sizable lead, while Ashton Torgerson fades from that front row starting spot and the rest of the field battles behind. CJ Leary would catch the back of the field and begin to struggle in lap traffic as Ryan Bernal would do what he does best, wraps the bottom and takes a lead from CJ Leary. As heavy favorite Christopher Bell is battling through traffic and really struggling to make up ground to your leaders, gets helped by some late race cautions that put him in fantastic position to do C-Bell things at the Chili Bowl. As C-Bell would use a late race caution to go from 5-3 before getting blessed with a second caution. That set him up on the bottom to go from 3-1, getting by a struggling Ryan Bernal late in the race. CJ Leary would fight back and secure that second lock-in spot for Alex Bowman Racing, putting C-Bell as a victor on Thursday night's prelim A feature main event. Friday's preliminary night was headlined by two-time Chili Bowl champion Logan Seavey, as it was Seavey night in the bowl. Formidable challengers such as Justin Grant, former Mr. Friday Night, was going to be chomping at the bit to take this night away from Seavey, as well as Darren Pittman driving for Matt Wood Racing, who were still seeking to put their first car in a lock-in spot for Chili Bowl A main Saturday. As well, out of the KKM stable would be Gavin Miller, former lock-in to the A main Saturday Chili Bowl main event, as well as Jesse Love, defending Xfinity Series champion, looking to put on a show. Out of the McDermott stable would be Steven Snyder Jr., looking to lock himself in on Chili Bowl A main Saturday. Friday's high point man is Justin Grant. In heat number 3, he had a fantastic 9-3 run, setting him up really well going into a qualifier, and then backs it up with a 6-1 run, winning his qualifier, setting him up for a pole position come Chili Bowl Friday prelim A main. A great story to watch in Friday's preliminary night would be Jesse Love, who missed the cut to the top 16 advances into the A main feature. As he finished 17th in points at the end of his heat racing qualifier, he would start at the front of a B main. In this B main, he would go on to win, putting himself in that 17th starting position come feature A main, as he'd be one to watch climb his way through the field. The Friday preliminary feature is one for the ages. This race had so many twists and turns, fantastic racing, and absolute bombs that made it look like a nuclear warfare. It was unbelievable. To begin this A feature event, we saw an early jump by Justin Grant as he takes off to a lead. Into the early portion of the race, we see Logan Seavey and Justin Grant battling for the lead, which brings in your other 3 contenders, Steven Snyder Jr., Gavin Miller, and Darren Pittman, as we have 5 drivers in pure absolute cinema under a blanket, which could be best described as a rock fight inside of a Connex container. Unbelievable racing, position swaps, as Justin Grant would then scoot off to a little bit of a lead while your battle continues behind. After a Michael Faccinto caution, the field resumes back to green. Justin Grant would lose the lead to Logan Seavey and the transfer lock-in spot to Gavin Miller. And then Justin Grant and Gavin Miller would be throwing absolute bombs, a nade fight on the dirt track special. Throwing sliders from oblivion, Gavin Miller would eventually pull the slider that would end his Chili Bowl hopes, as he would grab the wall and go end over end, collecting Steven Snyder Jr. in what only looks like a totaled race car, an absolute sim rig, as the broadcasters would say, bringing an end to Steven Snyder Jr.'s Chili Bowl hopes, as it would seem. Friday's Hard Charger Award would go to Jesse Love, who would start P17 and work himself all the way up to P4 at one point at the end of this race. The end led to a Logan Seavey dominant performance as Darren Pittman and Justin Grant battled for that final transfer spot. Justin Grant would take that final transfer spot and lock himself into Chili Bowl A main Saturday behind Logan Seavey. And as they crossed the line, Giovanni Scelzi and Jesse Love would make contact, sending Jesse Love end over end, ending his 2026 Chili Bowl hopes. After a fantastic week of racing, our Chili Bowl is just beginning. It's Driller Day on Saturday, with the beginning of the world famous Alphabet Soup, or as we like to say, Soupin', as we would like to see who are going to be the ones to make the climb through the Alphabet Soup, who was going to put on a show in the early mornings of Driller Day Saturday, as Sammy Swindell had an abysmal prelim night, as well as other storylines as who was going to take the pole in the pole shuffle, and which drivers that suffered massive crashes on their preliminary nights were going to be able to make the call and run for the soups. It's time. It's Driller Day at the Chili Bowl Nationals. Let's break down this historic finale, what can only be described as one of the greatest, if not the most historic Chili Bowl Nationals of all time. Saturday morning, feature number 1 would be the beginning of what would be considered the greatest feat in Chili Bowl history, as Darren Naida's night begins in the number 3 Mission Foods machine, as he starts his first main event on Chili Bowl Driller Saturday. Starting in the 3rd position, Darren Naida would begin his historic run with a win in feature number 1. Little did we know at the time that this young driver was going to put on an absolute show in the early mornings of Driller Day Saturday. Sammy Swindell, a heavy hitter looking to make a run through the soups on Saturday, had advanced through a P main feature number 2 and was looking to do the same in feature number 2, until he caught a little bit of the bad juju that the Chili Bowl provides when he broke a right front shock and went end over end, bringing his 2026 Chili Bowl to an end. Now moving on to end feature number 1, Darren Naida moving into his second feature event of the evening. Now stepping up to the plate to make a soup run of his own is Mac Leopard, making his first start of the evening here on Chili Bowl Driller Day Saturday. Starting from the pole position, he would take off and leave the field, claiming his first of many victories in this legendary soup run that was only brewing. Darren Nida would also advance on to his next feature event with a 7-2 run. Rolling into M feature number 2, Nida and Leopard's nights almost came to a catastrophic end as we had a big pileup into turn 1. Leopard was able to make it through, but Nida stalled his race car and would have a hard fight back into a transfer position. When the race resumed and the dust had cleared, Mac Leopard had climbed his way up to the lead and had taken his second main event victory of the evening. While Nida had a difficult challenge working his way back through the traffic, he was able to secure that 4th position, advancing himself on to his 4th main event of the evening. In L feature number 1, Darren Nida went from P10 to P4 to advance to his 5th main event of the night, while Mac Leopard was able to go 9-3, securing his 4th main event of the night. These incredible soup runs were about to continue as they were going to roll into K feature number 1. If anybody knows anything about souping at the Chili Bowl, every main event you advance, it gets even more difficult. More cars, further back in the starting grid, and better and stiffer competition, as Darren Nida would roll off in the 13th position, while Mac Leopard would roll off in the 11th position. Both drivers would quickly move to the top of the track and navigate traffic, as both drivers were showing the amount of raw talent and speed that these two drivers had underneath them and the fast cars that they possessed on this evening, as Mac Leopard would come home P2 while Darren Nida would come home P4, both advancing on to another main event. Rolling into J feature number 1, the entire Rowdy section as well as all of America and everybody watching the bowl had the backs of Darren Nida and Mac Leopard, as they were going to roll off Mac Leopard in P10 and Darren Nida in P12, looking to continue their Chili Bowl magic. An early caution would eliminate some cars that they would have to pass into this main event, making advancement seem just a little bit more obtainable. Towards the end of the main event, Darren Nida and Mac Leopard would find themselves at the front of the field battling amongst themselves for victory. Mac Leopard would best Darren Nida, winning his 3rd main event of the evening, while Darren Nida would bring it home in the P3 position, both advancing to another main event. Rolling into I feature number 1, Darren Nida in his 7th main event of the morning, starting from that P13 position, while Mac Leopard is rolling into his 6th main event of the morning, rolling out in that 11th position. As has become a trend, both Mac Leopard and Darren Nida both take it to the top of the track as they circle the wagons on traffic, as Mac Leopard will take his 4th record-shattering win on Saturday, as Darren Nida will bring it home in P3. H feature number 1 would see familiar starting spots for Mac Leopard, who rolls off in P11, while Darren Nida again starts off in P13. The soup run, this legendary soup run, would try to continue as we knew the inevitable track work progress was coming at any time during this portion of the program. Doing what they've done all morning long, they began slicing and dicing their way through traffic, making the outside line work, making it where they were going to optimize their passes and move forward through the field, as Mac Leopard would secure the 4th place finish, while Darren Nida would get the last spot to transfer in right at the end and secure that P5. Starting with G features, this is where the difficult task of advancing becomes one step more difficult, as in the G features, only the top 5 drivers would advance opposed to the 6 that we've seen prior in the evening. Darren Nida would start from the 15th position, and he would work his way all the way through the field, coming up 1 position short right at the end, securing that 6th place finish, ending what would be a record-breaking and a legendary Chili Bowl soup run for the ages. While Mac Leopard, he would move himself from that 14th starting position all the way to P2 and secure himself a 9th Chili Bowl A main event on Chili Bowl Driller Day Saturday, tying Darren Nida's record of 9. After an extensive track working portion of the evening, Mac Leopard had all the odds stacked against him. He'd be getting F feature number 1 in the 17th position, having to climb himself all the way up to 5th in just a 15 lap feature. With new track conditions, everything he had used to his advantage prior had now all been thrown out the window and have to figure it out real quick. He'd make a valiant effort, fight his way through the field, and get all the way up to the 9th position by the race's end, bringing a close to both of our legendary Chili Bowl soup runs in this year's Chili Bowl Nationals. When the dust had cleared and these drivers had been eliminated, we could sit back and enjoy just how fantastic these soup runs were and just how legendary, historic, and unbreakable they may be. As Darren Nida and both Mac Leopard both tied for the most main events advanced through with 8. They both tied for the most competed main events in a single night. Also, Darren Nida would score 1 victory and end main number 1. And also, Mac Leopard would score 4 main event victories, the most all time. Darren Nida with 68 passes, putting him 3rd all time behind Leopard and JJ Yaley, while Mac Leopard would take the sole spot at the top with 73, a most historic and all-time passing record. Now, before we can move into the evening's program and the main events of the night, we must talk about one more soup run that was worthy of mention. This would be Steven Snyder Jr. After his horrific crash, which looked like an absolutely totaled race car, his Chili Bowl looked like it had come to an end. And with the grace of the racing gods, they had put that race car back together and he had seated himself into his E-Main feature. He would put on a great performance in E-Feature number 1, advancing himself on to a D-Main. This is where his Chili Bowl would come to a close, as he'd be eliminated in D-Feature number 1. But what a fantastic effort by this McDermott Racing team. After opening ceremonies, we'd move on to the pole shuffle. That would be a lackluster one at best, as we wouldn't see very many great runs through the shuffle, as Kyle Larson would best Emerson Axum in a head-to-head battle to take the pole for the 40th annual Chili Bowl Nationals. Let's move ahead to B feature number 2, featuring Jet Barnes, the young 14-year-old phenom who scored a P3 finish in his Tuesday preliminary night, as he was going to make an absolute show of himself and have himself a hell of a day, young man, as he would dominate B feature number 2 and put all the veterans and all the heavy hitters behind him. Also, Wout Hoffmans, who was a great storyline on the weekend, with his great run in his Friday preliminary night, would also grab that last transfer spot and lock himself into his first Chili Bowl A-Main feature. After 6 full days of great racing action at the Chili Bowl, all the pomp and circumstances behind us, the best 24 drivers of the event have lined up for the A-Main Chili Bowl Nationals. And all the twists and turns of this 55-lap main event are about to unfold. The 40th annual Chili Bowl Nationals roars to life as pole sitter Kyle Larson jumps to an early lead, but we cannot finish lap 1 as Colby Copeland is our first caution of the evening. After a second start of the Chili Bowl Nationals, Kyle Larson will lead the opening laps, as Emerson Axum, showing his impatience and speed, wants to get to the lead and get to the lead in a hurry. Him and Larson will throw sliders at each other, as Emerson Axum will do an amazing wheel stand down the straightaway and eventually take the lead from Larson. With 40 laps to go, your leaders are catching lap traffic. After what appears to be contact between Leary and Ruschenberg, CJ Leary's tire may have gone down. Kyle Larson, closing extremely quick, gets on the binders but absolutely hung moneys it and flips the car over. This would create extensive damage and bringing Kyle Larson's Chili Bowl Nationals to a close. I guess we can blame Alex Bowman for this one, since his car is the reason Kyle Larson ended his race. After the ensuing restart, we saw a fantastic battle as the race for the front of the field continues. Shane Golobic, up 17 positions from his starting spot, was duking it out with the likes of Ryan Bernal and Cannon McIntosh. And rookie Jet Barnes, 14-year-old phenom, who's duking it out with these Chili Bowl veterans. Unfortunately, this amazing Chili Bowl effort would come to an end after some contact with the outside wall, after hopping the cushion would bring Jet Barnes' incredible Chili Bowl Nationals to an end. As the battle for the lead continues between Grant, Seavey, and Axum, Can't Drive Cannon McIntosh throws a bomb for the ages not even close to clearing Shane Golobic, wiping him out and ending his 2026 Chili Bowl championship campaign. Epic late race battling between teammates Emerson Axum and Logan Seavey, as Seavey, former Chili Bowl champion, is pressuring Emerson Axum, giving him all he can handle if he's gonna hang on for this victory. As Axum hops the cushion, makes a mistake, and has to play defensive, kicks it to the bottom, and cuts off any momentum or any chance Logan Seavey has at getting to the inside. Logan Seavey would wash up the track and make slight contact with Justin Grant, bringing Justin Grant upside down, ending his Chili Bowl. The Chili Bowl Nationals just couldn't end without a little bit more controversy. As we have a late race restart, Logan Seavey may be struggling with fuel. Dason Pursley gets an extremely great run, takes the pass over Seavey, and gets a penalty for passing before the start finish line, ending any chance Dason Pursley had at winning his first Chili Bowl. Whether you agree with it or not, this was one of those crazy decisions by race control to determine the outcome of this race. To fulfill destiny, Emerson Axum, after a dominating performance, just had to navigate one more flawless restart, and he will claim his Golden Driller. Despite a late race charge by Kevin Thomas Jr., who came out of nowhere at the end of this race, Emerson Axum would not be denied, and he would claim the win in the 40th annual Chili Bowl Nationals. After an absolutely thrilling week in Tulsa, insane battles, Cinderella stories, record-breaking soup run, drama, and controversy, the most historic Chili Bowl Nationals in history have come to a close. I just love this event and consider it one of the top motorsports events in the world. If there are any storylines I may have missed, or if you have opinions on this year's iteration of the race, please leave those in the comment section below. A major shout out to all teams, drivers, promoters, and fans for making this event so special, one that we look forward to at the early parts of January every year. If you guys like our content, please leave a like or even hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notification to stay up to date with everything happening on this YouTube channel. If you guys love the Chili Bowl, that's a great reason to leave a like. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this year's Chili Bowl Nationals, and just like always, we will see y'all in the next one.